All right. So in part one, I went over a bunch of features that you may not know about, especially if you never read the manual. And in part two, I went over some tips and tricks that I use with my Model 12. And now for part three, I'm going to go over what I love, hate, and wish it had. And hate's probably a strong word. Maybe issues is more appropriate. But first, what I love. So I love how quickly I can record and mix on it. So if I have a song idea or maybe I'm practicing a song, all I got to do is plug in a mic, plug in my guitar, arm a track, hit record, and boom, I'm off and running. And prior to that, I would mainly have to when I was still recording in my DAW, if I was upstairs here and I had an idea, well, I'd have to go downstairs, go get my laptop, bring it back upstairs, plug it in, turn it on, wait for it to boot up and all. Then I'd have to hook up my audio interface, and then I'd have to go into my audio interfaces program, which if you hadn't used it in a while, you practically needed a pilot license to figure it out. And then after all that, I'd call up my DAW, which in my case would be Logic Pro, and have to start a new session. And by the time I would do all that, I'm like, I don't even want to play anymore. So this is just so convenient, to have it here. So that's number one. That's the first thing. The second thing I love about it is it's got real knobs. It's just like an old-fashioned analog mixer. You can adjust anything. If I want to adjust the EQ, it's right there. If I want to add compression, do the levels and all that. And if I want to do a quick mix down, it's great. Just set everything up, mix it, and there it is. I got a mix. If I want to go eat dinner and come back, an hour later, I'm right back again without having to do all that with my laptop. And I'm probably like a lot of folks. I don't have a dedicated music computer that's sitting upstairs here with me, hooked up to I guess an audio interface. I use my laptop for other things. Again, I'm an amateur. So that's number two. Number three, it sounds great. Now I was using, if you want to know what I was mainly using, I was using this audio interface, well-known RME Babyface Pro. I got it back in 2016. It's not the latest version they have. I think they have one now called the FS. But a very great device, very stable. Never had an issue with it. And I guess if you're wondering how would I compare the sound of the two of these. Now my ears are like, 60 plus years old now, so they're not as good as they used to be. But I would describe the sound as, again, being very good, maybe on the warm side. I know warm's kind of, a word that folks use a lot, but I would probably say the Tascam sounds a little bit more warmer than my old RME. Now the RME sounds very, very clean. I'd say maybe a little tiny bit more detailed. But again, it's hard to tell. There's so many factors that come into play when you're doing comparisons. The preamps, each other's preamps, how they compare. The audio digital conversion, which RME is, known to be very, very good. You got that factor. And then just little things, listening to the headphone amp on here versus the headphone amp on there. And, this is like almost twice as much for just two channels. But again, I've never done a true comparison, but I'd say they're very, very close. It's hard for me to tell. Fourth is I love using my outboard gear. I have some compressors here, and I have some old effects units that I use, that got real knobs. And if I want to adjust anything on the fly, while I'm mixing down, it's right there, and I love using that gear with this. I can still use it with my computer, my DAW, and send it out and back in. But again, that's a pain in the ass. So what else do we have? The fifth and final thing is it's fairly light. It's fairly portable, and I have a real drum set down in my basement. And once in a while, when I do record drums, it's not too heavy to go and carry it, bring it down there and record down there. So those are the things, I guess I'll say that I love about it. Now, next, I'm going to tell you about some issues that I have had with mine. So we'll see you on. I guess we'll see you on the issues next. Okay, issues. But I guess first, I forgot to mention I wanted to talk about my workflow for those that are interested. So, yeah, I mostly I'd say 90% of the time I'm recording and tracking on the Model 12. Then what I typically do is I'll do a rough mix, and if I like the rough mix, that will become a keeper, and then I'll transfer the 2-track master into my DAW, and that's actually where I do the mastering. 2-track mix, I should say. Bring it into my DAW, and then I'll master it, meaning I just make it louder and use a limiter or something like that. Or if I don't like the mix or feel like I need to work on it a little bit more, I'll bring it into my DAW, and I will mix inside my DAW. Maybe do things a little more surgical, like with the EQ that you can use in a DAW, and then I'll mix and master in there. The other thing I'll do is, well, I still do record occasionally with my DAW. And I also have this Zoom H5 portable recorder. I record with that as well. But again, 90% of what I'm doing now is over here. So yeah, I guess moving on to the issues. So the first issue, a pretty big issue with the power button. So a few months back, I started to notice that every time I would turn this on, it wouldn't go on right away. It would come on maybe 20, 30 seconds later, or I'd have to flip the switch like 4 or 5 times, and then all of a sudden it would come on. So I did an internet search, and I found that I'm not alone. That other folks that have the Model 12 were having a similar issue. Now, one guy came up with a solution. He basically replaced the switch in the back, and he did a whole YouTube video on how to do that in case, anybody needs to do that. Just do a search on YouTube. But he went out and bought the part, which is probably like, a $10, $15 part. And then he shows how he took it all apart and took it out of there. And it seemed fairly straightforward. I think his only issue was not only is it kind of screwed in the back or however it's in there, it's also glued. And he had to cut around the glue. Well, I don't really want to do that. So then I thought, well, maybe I'll send my unit to a repair shop. But that could take, a while to get back. And, for all I know, they might charge me a couple $100. So the solution, which somebody suggested on a forum or maybe in the comments of YouTube, was leave it on all the time and just use your power switch to turn it on. So that's what I do now. This unit is always on. And when I want to turn it off, I just click that button over there. Now, the other day while I was filming I guess some of these videos, I turned it off by accident. Now, I hadn't turned it on or off probably in 2 months. So I turned it off by accident, went to turn it on, had the same issue. In fact, it took me a while to get it on again. So I don't know how many more clicks I have left. Now, this thing is only 3.5 years old. I got it in 2020. So yes, I probably turned it on and off like 1,000 times, but it's kind of disappointing that there's an issue with that switch already. I would assume Tascam probably knows about this. I'm not sure if they've, under newer units, have replaced this switch or not, but I guess my suggestion to anybody that owns one of these, whether you've had one for a while or you even got a new one, unless you contact Tascam and ask them, have they fixed their switch problem, I would suggest doing what I do. Leave it on all the time and just use a power switch to turn it on and off. So that's that. It kind of stinks because if I ever decide to sell this thing now, or trade in, who's going to want to buy it from me knowing I got a faulty switch? But whatever. So moving on, the second issue, not really a major issue, but early on I thought, oh my gosh, what's going on here? But every once in a while I'll get this FS mismatch error message on here. And it happens if I'm connected to my DAW or to my MPC1. But really what it is it's a sampling rate issue. So my MPC1, I think it's always at 44K, and a lot of times I track on here at 48K. And if that sampling rate isn't correct, you'll get that message. And the same thing with my DAW. I'll have my DAW. Usually I have the DAW on 48, but I use this program called Tonex. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it, but it's basically profiles of amplifiers on my computer. And that might be defaulting to 44K. And if I use it as a standalone on my computer and then go over here on 48, I'll get that message. But no big deal. Easy solution. The third issue some folks are having, and I kind of have an issue in one particular scenario, is when you're using the when you're using your DAW and you're playing back your music from your computer. Again, you can either default it to 9 or 10, the audio to come back, default it to go to the main, or have it go to the normal default, which is channels 1 or 2. Now, one person, and actually I think it was Recording Studio 9, the guy who has the YouTube channel on and does a lot of great videos on the Model 12, I thought his issue was, and he's a Windows user, and I'm a Mac, and I haven't really noticed this particular issue with my Mac. So could be an issue with me too. Maybe I haven't just noticed it yet, but it could be maybe a Windows issue. But when he was defaulting, I think if I got this straight, if he was defaulting things to 9 and 10, but within his DAW, pointing each of his DAW tracks to go to individual tracks on the Model 12. For example, let's say he has vocal going to track 1 and guitar going to track 2 and bass guitar going to track 3, that when he went to go play it back, all of a sudden instead of having the vocal on track 1, it was playing on like 9 or 10 or something like that. And I thought his solution was he just switched the default from 9 and 10 back to 1 and 2 or something like that, and then all of a sudden it worked. Now, again, I haven't really had that particular issue, but a couple issues I have had. One of them I just tried out the other day. I don't use it too often for this, but I was playing around with it as a DAW controller. Remember, you can use this to control your DAW. Control the faders, playback, and panning and everything. And I hooked it up like that, and yeah, all the DAW control functionality was working great. But instead of the audio coming back in 9 or 10 or main or wherever the heck I wanted to, it was weird. It was coming through on channel 6. I'm like, what the heck is up with that? I didn't spend a lot of time with that. Again, I don't really use this too much as a DAW controller, but you may have that issue as well. The third audio return issue I have once in a while, and I don't use it too often either, I'm still trying to learn how to use the darn thing, is my MPC1. Just like a DAW, an MPC1 works just like a computer. I can point the individual instruments to different tracks on here. So I could have, usually on the MPC1, I'm using all the drum samples. So I got my bass drum on channel 1, snare on channel 2, and maybe my overheads over here and some keyboard or whatever. And most of the time it seems to work, but sometimes I'll boot it up and I'll play it back and it will go to like the default. It'll just be, everything will be on tracks 1 or 2. And then I'll, maybe I'll reboot it or call up a different session on the MPC1 and it will work. Now, it could be a user issue. Again, I haven't used the MPC1 a lot, but just don't know whether the issue is with the MPC1 or over here or if it's me. So those are the audio return issues. Not major, but just, wanted to make you aware of those. The last and final issue is my iPad. And as I mentioned, I think in tips and tricks, maybe I do use it, to play back mostly through Bluetooth. But I was playing around with it, trying to use that as my DAW using GarageBand because you can do that. If you hook up the USB and you hook that up to your iPad, just like you would with a computer, you can do everything you can do and point the tracks where you want it to go and record in GarageBand. The issue I'm having is when I hook that all up, I can do all those things, but I'm hearing snap, crackle, and pop in the background. And usually that means, I think that usually means you might be having some sort of buffering issue. Maybe GarageBand isn't buffering properly. Now, I did not spend a lot of time doing this. In fact, I just did it before I started shooting these videos just to see if it would work. So it could be a user thing where I could easily fix it, or it could be I have a very old iPad. It's from 2014. Maybe it's an issue with that. Who knows? But I figured I'd mention it. So that's it with the issues. And next I was going to talk about my wish list. So it's hard for me to believe that 40 years ago, in 1984, I bought my 4-track recorder, which was a Yamaha MT44, which is actually sitting on the floor over there. And again, 4 tracks, a very basic mixer, and then a little patch bay where you can patch a few things, in and out of it. And yeah, I paid $600 for it. And at the time, I was working at Burger King part-time. I was still in college, and I was making probably like $50, $60 a week. But I saved up my money, but I'll also admit I used some of my student loan to fund it, which you could get away with back then, which I don't think you can get away with anymore. But yeah, $600 for 4 tracks, and this unit here is $600 for 12 tracks, and it's not only a recorder and mixer, it's an audio interface, DAW controller with effects and EQ and all that 40 years later. But with that all said, we always want more. So, I thought about what would my dream machine be. They just came out with the Model 2400. So, they've always had the Model 24, which is, 24 tracks. Now they have the 2400, and perhaps they're working on the Model 1200. But yeah, so I listed out a bunch of stuff here. Some of this maybe some of it is doable to upgrade through current soft or the current model with just the software upgrade. Other things I'm going to mention would definitely be a hardware upgrade, and other things are nice to haves, and the last things are probably just a pipe dream. But yeah, look how spoiled we are compared to 40 years ago. Same exact price. Unbelievable. But so just to get started here, so the first item is the ability to invert the phase post-recording. So currently, you can invert the phase while you're tracking and recording, for each of the individual tracks. But to my knowledge, when you play it back, if you want to invert the phase on a particular track, I don't think you can do that. And a lot of times I'm recording myself, singing and playing acoustic guitar, and I got 2 microphones, one for my vocal, obviously, and the other one for the guitar, and I'll have a phase issue where the sound will get thin. Now, if I can catch it, or I believe I'm going to have the issue while I'm recording, I'll reverse the phase, on one of those tracks. But a lot of times I don't catch it, or I think I did the right thing, inverted the phase properly, only to want to switch it back again after I recorded it. So it would be nice if you could invert the phase during playback when you're doing your two-track mix down. So that was number 1. Number 2, the ability to use the inserts during playback. Right now, to my knowledge, again, when you're tracking, you can use the inserts. So you can, use your outboard, compressor, EQ, whatever. But wouldn't it be nice if you could do that while you're tracking? Again, I would love to be able to do that because I do sometimes use my compressor a little bit when I am tracking, but sometimes I don't realize it. Maybe I'm using a little bit too much or not enough, something of that nature. I'd rather track without the compression and then during mixdown be able to use my outboard gear. Not sure if that could be done just the way a digital mixer is designed. I know the old-fashioned analog mixers you could do that, but not sure with a digital mixer. Number 3, the ability to be driven by other MIDI devices. So right now, the Model 12 can drive MIDI devices. Like if you hook up a drum machine or I have my MPC 1, I can drive that unit, but I can't go the other way. What if I want my drum machine to drive the Model 12? And actually, what I really would like the ability to do is hook up 2 Model 12s together. Let's say I want to upgrade and get more tracks without getting the Model 24. Wouldn't it be nice if I could buy another Model 12, sync them together, and have one Model 12 drive the other? And that way I'd have, whatever. I don't know if it would be 24 tracks, but maybe I'd have 20 or 22 available. Item number 4 is the ability to record virtual tracks. Now, I'm pretty sure, and I think, I'm sorry, Tascam still makes this. I think it's in the DP24. But wouldn't it be nice to record virtual tracks where you can add additional tracks that maybe you can use during mixdown, or maybe you're doing like 5 or 6 vocal takes, and you want to pick the best of the 5 or 6 by using a virtual track. I wish you could do that on here. In fact, I wish they would take the best of the Tascam DP24 as well as the model 12 or 24, whatever it is, and maybe come out with a new ultimate unit. Number 5, ability to copy a track. I couldn't remember why I wanted this, but I think currently you can swap a track, so I can swap track 1 to track 3, or vice versa. But if I wanted to copy track 1 and have basically 2 copies, one on one and another on another, I don't think you can do that. Now, again, I was trying to remember why I would want to do this. I think at the time I was thinking of doing something like where I could process the second track differently than the first track. So maybe the first track I got a dry vocal without any compression, but then maybe on track 2 I want to do parallel compression. I want to hit it really, really hard. It would be nice if I could just copy and have both of the tracks in alignment and do that on here. Now there is a workaround, which I've tried. You can send the audio out of auxiliary 1 and say go into your outboard compressor and then bring it back into track 2. But the problem with that I notice is you get a latency delay. And I think it's because it's going through multiple digital conversions. First from digital to analog to go out, and then analog to digital to come back in. And there's a delay. And when you match up the 2 tracks, it doesn't sound good. You don't notice this with effects. It's not really an issue with time delayed effects. But doing something like compression, you do. So I wish you could copy. The 6th item is, and they just added this to the Model 2400, but the ability to apply compression or some type of limiter during the mastering process. Perhaps it could be done in the software, or maybe we got to wait till a Model 1200. But it would be nice because I know a lot of folks, myself included, not only like to mix on here, but would love to be able to master. And as I showed in my tips and tricks video, there's a way to do that. But it would be nice if you could do it right inside this box here, so to speak. Number seven is a nice to have. I know a lot of mixers have this. It would be nice to have a mic pad, the ability to pad down, a mic. Let's say you're recording drums with a microphone and it's hitting the levels a little too hard. It would be nice if you could pad that down. Number eight, phantom power by channel or perhaps group of channels. So right now, phantom power is all or nothing. I flip on the phantom, I got it on every one of these channels. Well, it would be nice if I could just, do it for an individual one or maybe in groups of four. Again, I know the model 2400 now gives you that capability. Number nine, dual effects would be nice. Right now, you only have one effect here. It would be nice if you had two or perhaps virtual effects that are available, inside the recorder. Number 10, another nice to have would be more than two inserts, perhaps maybe four. Again, I'm using the model 2400 that just came out. They now have a bunch of inserts. I don't think it's on every channel, but it's on all the mono channels, I believe, not the stereo ones. Number 11 would be a 4-band EQ. Again, it would give you better control for when you want to adjust frequencies for mix down. A lot of professional mixers have 4 bands, or maybe a software version of EQ. And I'm not sure. I think the DP24 might have that. But again, maybe it would be nice if they could take the best of those two units and put something like that together. Number 12, another nice to have would be stereo returns. So that way, if I am sending out to outboard effects besides using the internal ones, I don't have to use a track here. I can bring it into 2 stereo returns like you can do on a lot of analog mixers. Now, I realize if they add that, this all of a sudden kind of becomes the model 14. And at that point, you might as well get a model 16, I guess. But still, if it was doable, it would be nice to have that ability. So I think that's it. So yeah, I realize, a lot of nice to haves that I listed here. I understand, that, all these manufacturers are trying to do something, and maintain the cost, so to speak, so they can still sell this at around $600. But still, that would be, my dream machine. So that's it. Let me know if you have, any comments, any suggestions you have for your dream machine, or any issues you might be having if you currently, own one of these. And other than that, I guess I know what I was going to say. I might do a fourth video where I talk about track management and how to possibly get more than 12 tracks out of the Model 12. In particular, if you're doing a full band or want to do a lot of multi-track recording and overdubs, and kind of just a fun video. I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to do that or not. I guess if I do, might be within a couple weeks or maybe even a month out. But other than that, that's it. And yes, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.